Israel is the number one threat. So reads the headline of Yeni Safak. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing it correctly. The one of the newspapers, Erdogan's newspapers in Turkey, Erdogan's supporting newspaper. I guess he probably owns it in some sense or another. Uh, yes, this is as tensions rise in that particular conflict between Turkey and Israel, a conflict that has not become in any way military or hasn't seemed like it's going to become military at any point, but a conflict that has been going on, and in a sense, the fact that it's now sort of heating up is only because Israel is playing ball. I mean, Turkey under Erdogan has been anti-Israel all along. Netanyahu has been called Hitler by Erdogan many times. Turkey is 100% supportive of the Palestinian savages and more supportive of the worst elements among them. Turkey, of course, the height of tensions was in 2009, was it, or 10? It was 2009, right? When the Mavi Marmara, some of those, one of those freedom flotillas made its way from Turkey to the Gaza Strip. When they were told to turn around, all but one turned around, the Mavi Marmara, which included some people who were there in order to kill Israeli soldiers. Israeli soldiers tried to take it over peacefully so that they can, not allow it to do what it wasn't allowed to do, which is presumably provide aid to Israel's enemy. And the soldiers were attacked. Some of the terrorists or pro-terrorist activists died, and eventually Netanyahu apologized to Erdogan. Israel paid the families of the terrorists who died, and yeah, that has been Israel's approach all along. Turkey has been full on anti-Israel, and Israel has been trying to find middle ground. And you know what we advocate on this channel for. If somebody says, I want to kill you, there is no middle ground between you and them. There is only you accepting what they want or you fighting for your own life. Anyway, the recent tensions, part of the recent tensions is Israel is now building some sort of a local coalition with Cyprus and Greece. And Netanyahu, a couple of days ago, met with the leaders of those countries in Jerusalem. They Netanyahu specifically made it clear to Turkey that whatever aspirations they have for regional dominance and anything that puts Israel in threat, in danger, or its allies in danger, don't even think about it, I think was his exact words. And yeah, if this conflict becomes really a military conflict in any way, the stage for that conflict is very likely going to be Syria. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Well, if the Turkish get their way, it could be Gaza because they actually think they could convince Trump, and maybe they can, to have them be a part of the so-called peacekeeping force in Gaza, something that Israel really, really should and hopefully will draw a red line and say absolutely not. Welcome to the Daily Objective. I'm Razi Ginsburg, joined by Daniel Kraus. Daniel, your initial thoughts on what's going on at the moment? How is it different from what we've been seeing from Turkey all along?
Well, when I think it happened to few children when they were young, when they didn't have friends, they didn't have people around. So they started, creating friends, basically making it up in their head. And that is the foreign policy of Turkey right now. The fact is, despite being in NATO, Erdogan doesn't desire any alliances with NATO or NATO aligned countries. And the opposite isn't really that close to him because they are also his enemies in large extent. Turkey is not fans of Russia and hasn't been. They might be like fans of Putin, but strategically, I mean, they fought them in Syria. They go against each other. Turkey also desires to control a part of Iraq, which again clashes with Iran and again Russia. So they have to set up governments and create their own friends. This is the strategy Turkey seems to be going for. Now it's really something to say to somebody in Turkey to say that that Netanyahu is Hitler. Turkey, a nation that both traded and had a non-aggression pact or non-aggression treaty rather with Nazi Germany right before the invasion of Soviet Union. So yeah, neutrality in when it comes to dealing with evil isn't really something to be commended for. Now, specifically with what Netanyahu has been saying, I think I have a this is from the presidential spokesman. He said, "It is ironic for Israeli leaders to speak about imperialistic ambitions of others in these regions while they have just committed one of the worst genocides in history." So again, no genocide is going on. What Israel is doing and isn't even properly doing is simply self-defense and proper policy when it comes to Palestinians. While on the other hand, Turkey has just in past few decades invaded Cyprus, Iraq, Syria, and I think a few others. If you really wanna make it more expansive. But of course, when dictatorships invade countries, it's not starting war. It's you're just creating peace and stability because when a nation has a coup, you have a right to invade them. That's what we saw with Russia in Ukraine, and that's what we saw with Turkey in Cyprus. So, and we are talking about Turkey before Erdogan. With Erdogan, it's going in even more dictatorial, in even more expansionist way. Now, again, the way Turkey seems to be doing things is never really outright war. It's pretty rare that they do outright war. That's why I said creating friends, because instead they create a friendly regime in Cyprus. They create a friendly regime in Syria, create a friendly regime in Iraq. So, Hamas, and this is what Erdogan has been bragging about. We have, and I think this has happened during this meeting, I believe, between the Greeks and Cyprus and Erdogan. Is that I think the Greek prime minister might have been said that or it might have been just commented. I remember Greek prime minister said something about Hamas being a terrorist organization, and Erdogan responding with something like, that would be sad to hear if Hamas is a terrorist organization because we have 1,000 Hamas members in our hospitals today. I'll look up specifically where this is from, but I'll give it to you now.
Yeah, Ebog in the chat says it won't be a military conflict. Turkey is issuing threats to mess with us, just like Putin. I mean, people thought Putin was issuing threats just to mess with people in Ukraine, and he did what he did. I think I, I I'm not. Look, I would be very surprised if Turkey all of a sudden, fired missiles at Tel Aviv. I would not be surprised if Turkish certainly proxies, but even forces go into some sort of conflict in Syria because they think, Syria is theirs and Israel shouldn't mess with it. This is why I know people have criticized us for saying Israel should keep a chunk of Syria at least as a buffer zone. Yeah, that buffer zone is needed not just because of threats from Syria itself, including the Al Qaeda regime that is now in power in Syria, but also the much bigger threat from Turkey. So I hope you're right. I don't think this military conflict is going to be good for anyone. I do think making sure Israel has, some sort of superiority militarily in Syria and in the region is necessary. And it's also necessary for the U.S. to understand the need for this because we've heard Trump fawning over Erdogan. Erdogan wants F-35s. He wants to compete. And remember, what Israel has done over the past couple of years, much of which we've criticized and will continue to criticize, but Israel has changed the Middle East in the sense that Iran, even with its current rearming, is not the threat that it used to be. The threat from Lebanon is also reduced greatly and hopefully will be eliminated soon when at the end of this month they're the clock runs out on their commitment to disarm. They won't, and hopefully Israel will go and finish that job. Uh, and of course, the fall of Assad and Israel completely eliminating the weapon stockpiles, or very close to completely, that Syria had, which meant however evil any Syrian regime that takes over is, it can't pose a threat to Israel. It can't pose a threat to others as well, but for Israel's purposes, it should be Israel that Israel is worried about. And yeah, for Erdogan, on the one hand, there is this concern that Israel is now clearly the closest thing to a superpower in the region. Um, and he wants to be that superpower. And of course, he wants Israel, ideally for him, not to exist at all. So yeah, somebody in the chat was saying, Turkey, lion of lions. Yes, we're now all very afraid. By the
Turkey.
way, if you have some shit to talk in the chat, feel free, but do not spam it. Otherwise, you will be removed. No spamming of, good or bad ideas. Can I call this an idea? Anyway, Daniel.
Uh, yeah, I mean, even Turkish nationalism is kind of funny to me almost because the founder of the Republic, Ataturk, was, of course, of the CHP party, which is now the opposition because Erdogan is in the opposite party. So it's kind of hard to claim to your nationalism when you don't even supposedly stand behind the values of your founding father. Well, one correction on me. So when I brought that up about the 1,000 Hamas terrorists, so the specific quote is, and this was Erdogan saying that to Greek Prime Minister, if you call Hamas a terrorist organization, this would sadden us. We don't deem Hamas a terrorist organization. More than 1,000 members of Hamas are under treatment in hospitals across our country. So this did happen, but this is from an article last May. So it was mentioned in the same article I was reading about today. So I went to that, but I didn't check the date. But it's still relevant, right? Like this hasn't been something they have been hiding. The fact that Turkey not only is supportive of Palestinians, which they oftentimes talk about, but also of Hamas itself. They wanted to be in power. They have trained some of the soldiers in their territory. They said they shielded some of the leaders in their country. And I think, if I remember correctly, Erdogan has said that any attack on those Hamas members would be attack on Turkey, and that Turkey would retaliate. So trying to act as if like this is not even that Turkey is like hiding this or something. Like what will happen? Now, when you said like Israel is not even close to being a superpower, Israel is the power in the region. I mean, there is nobody really else right now. Like Iran is basically out. Like when it comes to militarily like positioning themselves. All of the other countries, what other relevant countries are in the region? Like Saudi Arabia, I'm not even sure if they have an army. Like I don't even know if like they really are ready for anything. Egypt does, but again, is Egypt interested in doing anything? Now they definitely like the posture. Maybe they like to experience Six-Day War again, which of course we'll talk about on the reality show again a bit more. So it really does seem like it is pretty much Israel, Egypt, and Turkey. And unfortunately, Israeli response to that is, well, let's let Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey actually take over Gaza. Let their armies to be in charge of Gaza. Because again, this already went through the UN Security Council. There is supposed to be a force being deployed in Gaza, but nobody wants to do it. And anybody who would want to do it, they would do it again, not from some humanitarian thing for Palestinians, specifically to gain an advantage over Israel. Again, look at the countries that deployed in UNIFIL in southern Lebanon. Those were not what I would call necessarily Israeli-friendly countries. Not that there are many Israeli-friendly countries.
Yeah, and of course, supporting the Palestinians is supporting war. I mean, for Israel, the clearer Israel's superiority militarily in the region is, the closer we are to peace in the Middle East. Because Israel is not the side that starts wars. The sides that start wars are the sides that want the Jewish state gone and all the Jews killed. Those are the people who start wars. And if they are less able to start wars or to continue them, then That's what peace means, is not war. Um, Alex says in the chat, how friendly is it really though? Even their friends are also kind of their enemies. The Syrian Sunnis aren't exactly hot over Turks. Um, Alex also said, who would they be fighting in Syria though? Turkey has far bigger enemies in Syria than Israel. Yeah, first of all, the thing is, Turkey may have big enemies in Syria, but they're not big in terms of their ability to fight. So if Turkey wants to get rid of any enemies in Syria, it can do so very easily. Like this is not going to be a difficult military achievement, in large part because any serious weaponry, as I mentioned, that was in Syria was eliminated by Israel. And even considering that, I mean, for Turkey to jump in and then take advantage of that is something they would do and is a very big threat to Israel. So Israel should make sure that that does not happen. Another thing that's kind of being brought up recently is the this new space base that that Turkey is opening in Sudan. Um, I don't know how relevant this is. I haven't looked too much into it, but remember, having a base in Sudan, a space base, which means you can shoot intercontinental ballistic missiles, means Israel is kind of in between Turkey and Turkey, and in that sense, this is not something that's completely irrelevant, especially if Turkey is looking at things that could be that are a conflict. I mean, Turkey is in conflict with Israel. It's just that this conflict hasn't become military yet, but conflicts between countries can go that route. And if you want to prevent it, you do it, as we know historically, through strength and not through capitulation to those who are basically starting the fight. Um, One other quick thing is that the just the possibility of this war, of any type of military conflict, is all the more reason for Israel to finish the job in Lebanon and finish the job in Iran now. Because, yes, Israel's enemies might hate each other, but if they see an opportunity to destroy Israel, remember that's the goal. It's not go back to the 67 borders, give up the Golan Heights and give up Gaza, give up. No, it's the destruction of Israel and killing everybody there. That is the goal. And if Iran sees that Israel, is the Israeli military is busy, then they might just decide to shoot some of their missiles, knowing that Israel will uh, struggle to fight back. So, yeah, finish the job in Lebanon, finish the job in Iran quickly, and then once the Iranian regime falls, of course, do what was done in Syria. Make sure there are no weapons that threaten Israel. Whatever happens afterwards, we all hope there's going to be a free Iran, but even if it's not, that's not Israel's job. Israel's job is to defend its own citizens, and the way to do that is to get rid of the regime. And if Lebanon is not a threat and Iran is not a threat, Israel can make sure that Turkey is not a threat in Syria, and Turkey will be much less likely to look towards a conflict.
Um, quickly through the chat, because Alex has mentioned Kurds, and that they are not managing to fight them properly inside their own borders or even in Syria. But also, outward war is a very good distraction, as we have seen. And also, that's my understanding for why they want more influence in both Syria and Iraq, specifically to fight the Kurds, because the Kurds are not just on Turkish side. They are not dealing with simply the Turkish Kurds or the Kurds living in Turkey, but basically cross the border. So at least that's my understanding of why they want influence in the surrounding region, basically completely go encircle all the Kurds. They're really not fan of the Kurds. And somebody said that something about that Israel doesn't start war. What about the 12-day war?
Oh, wait,
I
I was gonna read that whole thing and answer it. But super chats are, they're the priority. Do you want to read the super chat and then we read?
We have a super chat from Roland. Thank you so much. He says, "Happy Thanksgiving." Wait, we've already eating the turkey. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas Eve, which is what we, the Catholics, celebrate. The only proper thing, because this is when Jesus was born. Anybody who celebrates Christmas Day is weird.
By the way, in Britain they eat turkey on Christmas. I eat
Oh yeah.
turkey never. It's like
I
a
I, I actually had
dry.
the
It's a dry. I call it a dry chicken, but chicken is already dry, and this is dry. You really have to cover it with butter and bacon and all that stuff. Just eat
that's
something
good.
that, is already fatty. Anyway, yeah.
No, I had turkey at a ARCUK Christmas party. It was great. It is definitely dry if you just eat it with it. That's why you always need some kind of sauce with it. But yeah, with sauce, it's good. And of course, it's less fat. So less calories, more protein, much better. Like chicken.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you just eat the fat and the protein, you're fine. That's the carb. Anyway, let's get back to what we know better. Yeah, this guy says, Razi, sorry, but what are you talking about? You say Israel doesn't start the wars, but who started the 12-day war recently? I keep hearing Israel does preemptive war strikes. LOL. Who started that war? Iran. Iran started that war by attacking Israel repeatedly through its proxies from every direction. Iran, by the way, October 7th was Iran, but as you people like to say, it didn't start on October 7th. Iran, from the day the Iranian regime took over that country, all they were talking about was their official slogan: "Death to America, death to Israel." They attacked America immediately. America did nothing, and that's why we still have the most dangerous regime in the Middle East, which is Iran. And yeah, every attack from Hezbollah, every attack from Hamas, that is Iran attacking Israel. And as Iran builds up its long range missile capabilities and its nuclear weapon, aspirations, and goes further in that, then yeah, absolutely, that is Iran being a threat, a real threat to Israel. They say what they want to do. They keep saying that we will, wipe Israel off the map. If a country says we're going to wipe you off the map, that alone is a good reason to go to war, and that is an act of war by saying it. But yeah, Iran has also been showing that they mean what they say. So obviously, it was Iran, and Israel is on the defensive, and it did the right thing. And again, one of the most impressive military operations of all time that unfortunately was halted by President Trump before the mission was complete.
Yeah, and even noticing or like focusing on like who started the war or like who most recently started the first strike is a super weird way and concrete bound way of like analyzing any conflict. You have to look at the whole history, and we always look at, I mean, basically, who are the good guys and who are the bad guys? I think that's fundamentally how you have to look at it. Which country is the rights respecting country? Which country is the rights violating country? Iran is violating the rights of their own citizens. They have no right to self-defense. If any nation pretty much has a right to come and take over, well, not necessarily take over, but take out the Iranian regime. It's only the only thing that should be considered is the self-interest with that specific country, if it is in it to do so. I think with both Israel and America, it has been for about 5 decades a reasonable time to take out the Iranian regime. Um, but again, no obligation, but absolutely no right to self-defense. Again, talking about right of self-defense of countries that do not recognize the rights of their own citizens, which that's why it's wrong to talk about country rights. But if you want to use that concept, the right to self-defense of a country comes from the respect of their own citizens and the individual rights of their own citizens, and basically just put it collectively. So individual Americans have a right to live in a peaceful country. That's why America as a state has a right to defend those people with the army that was set up.
Thank you, Equal to Reality, for the super chat. Equal to Reality says, I prefer duck or goose for Christmas dinner. That makes a lot more sense. It wasn't available at the ARCUK Christmas dinner, unfortunately, at the place where we had it. But yeah, that makes more sense to me than
Well, no,
turkey.
you eat fish.
What?
On Christmas you eat fish.
Okay, this sounds like a whole episode that we're probably going to only subject our members to and not the general population. When there's somebody in the chat who says some things that are, it's kind of off, and I sometimes want to respond, and then, like, if you're the one talking when I'm reading it, and, I think, okay, I'm going to respond, but they have time to write more, and then you see they're actually, they've gone full, you know what. But I'm going to respond anyway. So somebody goes, "Oh, what about the nukes that Israel has?" Well, Israel has had those nukes,
Whoa, we don't know.
allegedly, for what, 60 years or more. I don't know how long they've had them. I don't know that they have them, as Daniel mentioned. And nothing has ever been done. Also, Israel has never said, we're going to go wipe this country off the map or that country off the map. All Israel wants to do, and this is uh, why so many object to it and why so many dedicate it's their lives to fighting against it, is to exist. That's what Israel wants to do. It wants to exist. It unfortunately has a really desperate desire to be loved by its enemies, by its enemies and neighbors who are its enemies. I don't know why that is, but yeah, if nobody started wars against Israel, there would be no wars in which Israel is involved. So that's a terrible comparison when Israel says to a country, or goes to prevent a country saying death to Israel from acquiring nuclear weapons. It's not the same as Israel existing. Thank you, Bonnie, for the super chat. There was something else. Somebody, oh yeah, this is what this person said. Israel had to beg Trump to stop the war. This is the problem with you people and your lies. This was recent enough that we remember very clearly. I don't have to Google what actually happened at the end of the war because I remember Israel. First of all, did not want to stop the war. It was Trump that said he made regime change is messy. I don't like it. It was also Trump that came in knowing that Israel was about to remove the Iranian regime with probably zero Israelis dead in that war. Sorry, zero Israeli soldiers dead in that war, which would have been really amazing. And the number of civilian deaths, tragic as that is, was much, much lower than expected. And he comes in and does something that, only the US could have done that easily, which is take care of the main nuclear site. I forget the name of the place, and then forced Israel to stop. Remember, when there was the ceasefire, Iran still fired at Israel and killed 4 people in Beersheba, and Israel was going to retaliate. And Trump said, we know this because he said this not on a phone call to Netanyahu, which then some aide leaked. He said this on Truth Social, where he makes policy and foreign relations statements. He said, "I'm upset with both countries, but mostly with Israel. Why are you doing this when the war is over?" So yeah, no, unfortunately, it's great that the U.S. didn't do what it likely would have done under the previous regime, and did under the previous regime, which is tell Israel, do not engage in any way, and actually leaked plans by Israel to go after Iran. But no, the right thing to do there for the U.S. would have been sit back, relax, and see Israel doing more in 12 days plus a few more than America did since 9/11 to this day. Parting thoughts?
Well, just quickly, because somebody said, what if we take a global poll of who the good guys are? Well, thankfully, truth is not decided by a global poll, but by what is the reality of the situation. And lastly, WB said on 24th, Christmas Eve, there is no meat rule. Thankfully, for Catholics, fish is not meat. So, yeah, you can still eat fish on, I think, both like Big Friday and all the big holidays. You can still eat fish. It's considered not meat.
I can't. I missed some of the messages. I don't see the one, but it's amazing that people still say stuff like take a global poll. You know in what conditions most people in the world live. You know in what kind of regimes. I mean, if you want to know in what kind of regimes, look up next time there's a vote against Israel in the UN. Look at the countries voting against. and then look into them one by one and tell me, are those the people that you want to listen to? Well, they are the people that you want to listen to, and that's why the world is unfortunately going in your direction, and Israel is the only one kind of slowing the decline. America is where I hope the decline would really slow, but this last week has told me otherwise. Yeah, the conservative movement is still imploding, and we are going to talk about why so many conservatives in America seem to hate the Jews and blame them for everything. Thanks, Daniel. Thanks, everybody, for watching. The reality show starts in a couple minutes.